All right, good morning, everybody. I'm your host, Jackson Pierce, and this is the Real Life Monopoly podcast. I'm coming in from South Carolina, and our guest today is Evelyn Garcia, who has done over 100 transaction coordination deals all over the United States. She's been doing real estate since 2018 and has a partner who has brokerage in or is a broker in 6 states. So they've been working together for 4 years, and she's really been focusing on honing in on the transaction coordination portion of things and how to really protect people doing creative finance deals. So Evelyn, what's like the number one thing that when you're doing transaction coordination, you're doing creative finance deals, sub to seller finance, whatever. What are people like when buyers bring you a deal? What's like the most common thing you see that they just like didn't know that they should have known before getting it under contract, um or like thinking that they were ready to close?
Great question. The number one thing is that a lot of people are not educated with land trust and buying under land trust.
Okay.
And we've been buying properties under land trust for many years. This is my first property in 2018. It was under a land trust, and all my wholesale has been under a land trust. And that is just like the number one thing. And why I emphasize on land trust so much is it protects you, and you could be able to just sleep at night. If you set up your property, especially with a credit financing with subject to, um, you are totally protected from the due on sale clause, because now you're protected by the same um, gone St Germain Act. They can't call the loan due because
Mhm.
it's in estate planning. So if you do it right, you set it right, you can sleep at night from
Cool.
the very
Okay.
beginning.
So
So that's
so
like
so
the
real
number one thing. Hmm.
Gotcha. So really closing your sub twos into a land trust, and then that makes it so that if the lender calls the loan due, um, which for the audience, if you don't know, it basically just means like because all mortgage lenders have the a clause in their note
Hmm.
that says, hey, if you sell this house, you have to pay us all the money back right away. When you buy a property sub two or you sell a property sub two, you're kind of skipping that and you're just kind of crossing your fingers that they don't notice or they don't care. Um, and so I mean, but using the land trust as basically the closing entity, it gives you the
Hmm.
ability to circumvent that because the St Germain Act basically says, hey, you're allowed to transfer title into a trust if it's for estate planning purposes. So none of this legal advice, none of this financial advice. Go talk to a CPA and a
Thank
lawyer,
you.
right?
Yes,
um,
thank you.
but so there's like kind of three like main players in a trust structure, right? So you have like the grantor, you have the trustee, and you have the beneficiary, right? So
Yes.
when you guys are setting up land trusts for or when you're having people set up land trusts to close their subject to properties, how are who's what in that? So I assume that I've seen it done where like the most obvious is the seller is the grantor, the trustee is the buyer, and the beneficiary is the LLC that the buyer is operating out of. But I've also heard of it being done with um seller is the grantor, the buyer is the trustee, or like the buyer's entity is the trustee, the seller is the beneficiary, and then they sign a document that assigns all benefits or like all beneficiary rights or whatever to back to the buyer basically. And
Hmm.
so I don't know if that's like an extra level of complicated that's necessary, or I mean what's just like your non-legal advice opinion on that?
Non-legal advice. So My opinion is get an attorney to say it correctly. No, but no, this is what we do. This is what we do. Okay, so we do a revocable living trust
Mhm.
for real property. Our trust documents, we get it from mentors that's been doing it since the 1960s. I'm going to Tampa to meet up with all the old school. These are people that's been doing the business since the 60s, 70s, and right now, I'm just grateful to even be in that room with them. Um, so our trust documents, we don't have grantors. We just have the trustee and the beneficiaries, and that's it. But I've seen a lot of setups where you use an attorney. The grantor is usually the attorney. Um, they don't put the seller as the grantor because it just makes them they said that it makes them like able to revoke
Oh.
the trust, but in our experience, the person that actually could revoke the trust is the beneficiary. They could just close it. They're the one that owns the trust. It's the beneficiaries.
Mhm.
Um, but we have been down that road that someone actually does have done this. So we don't I don't have experience with
Right.
someone revoking and taking back the trust and going through all that drama. I don't have the experience on that, but that's what
Mhm.
we are told. But our revocable living trust, we don't have a grantor. It's
Okay.
just benefit the trustee, and the
Mhm.
trustee can be anyone. It could be even your LLC, and there everybody just wants to do what feels right and comfortable to them.
Right.
They want to put the LLC as the trustee. I just don't particularly like it because the deed is going you're going to be signing the deed, and it's going to show
Mhm.
the LLC on there. So it just looks more a little bit like a business transaction. But
Right.
however, some people like to keep their name out of not on the deed because that's public record, and they just want more privacy. So
Mhm.
it's whatever really floats your boat.
Does the trust not go on the deed, or is it just that you're signing for?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, for the
Okay.
trust. Yeah, you're the
Gotcha.
trustee. So now the
Okay.
beneficiaries, you could do this two ways. You could put the seller as the beneficiary on the original trust document, and then you assign it.
Mhm.
They assign it over to you. And you could
Okay.
put yourself as the beneficiary, you could put your kids, you could put the LLC. I like to put my LLC as the beneficiary because I do all my accounting under my LLC.
Okay.
So the beneficiary has the rights to manage and all the finance. So that's how I structure it.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Mhm.
Well, that's awesome. So that's definitely something that I agree. Not enough people. I mean, I've closed three sub twos of my own this year, and we didn't use a trust. We just put it in my LLC, and I'm sure
Mhm.
in a year or two, once those properties, because right, two of them had like it would have cost the lender money to foreclose, so it like didn't. It was fine. I'm sure in a couple of years they're gonna decide that it's time to call that loan due. Which is fine. It's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
You learn new things every day, especially in
Yeah.
in real estate and in like where you're doing creative finance. Where I mean, there's a lot to learn, and you'll never know everything, which is it's kind of the fun part. If it gives you an opportunity to grow every day. So that's really that's really cool. So as a transaction coordinator, what is your specialty, right? So I mean, I know you've done over 100 deals. Um, you work with like a TC team. What what is your kind of role in the transaction when you're working with your teammates? Because I've done deals where you would have you'd have like a TC handle like the sub two, and then you'd have a TC handle the insurance, and then you'd have a TC handle like something else. But so like, do you have like a specific role in that, or is it just kind of like, hey, this deal, Evelyn is going to do this deal for us, and she's going to handle the whole thing?
Yeah.
And then what kind of
So
deals do you prefer to do?
um well, since our like niche is closing deals on the land trust, because a lot of people do not, it's just so many TCs are just they get so afraid. I don't even understand 'cause it's very simple to me. um, and that's right there, right, is our niche. But everybody in my team does every transaction, and some TCs just assign one particular client. Like that client could probably bring 5 to 10 deals. That's the TC for that client. Myself, I'm the CEO. I right now capable of not doing working any files because I have to manage everything and I oversee everything. So some people just like, no, I want you to be my TC. I said, you don't want me to be your TC. I don't have time to babysit your file and give it the attention that one of my dedicated TCs could give you.
Right.
I'm out there, I'm speaking, I'm I'm working on the business and not in the business. So that's my role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. So is most of the work that your team does then, is it mostly creative finance deals, or is, I mean, I know we were talking about doing some private money lending deals also.
It's mostly creative deals. Our private money lenders, we have done a couple of private money lenders, but just to be honest, like our vetting process, we just take it very personal. And it's like when we see a red flag, we see a red flag. So we fund a lot of private money lenders. It's like, hey, we don't feel comfortable working on this deal. If you want to continue, it's on your risk. We could just cannot put our name on this type of deal. So and then a lot of EMD lenders, they just like they get so frustrated because we just like, hey, but if this EMD goes hard, we need to know that if this is going to close, then my client is not going to lose money. So we need this, we need that, and they get a little bit overwhelmed with our process. But I'm here to protect my client, and a lot of my clients appreciate that. But then it just gets harder to actually lend.
Right. No, I've seen the same thing, especially with earnest money deals, where when somebody is looking for earnest money that they're borrowing, it's almost always like, I've never done an earnest money deal before, and I need an earnest money lender, and I don't want to talk to the seller about any of these documents. I don't want any of these documents. It's too much work, blah blah blah. And it's always like, I need the money tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always that. It's always that. It's definitely like, because I've done some earnest money deals where I almost funded them. I did some where I funded them and the money got sent back. I lost money on one, but the borrower is like he didn't ghost me or anything. He's gonna make me good on. He has another property that he let me attach a lien to. That is like a flip. So like that's all gonna be fine. But it's definitely just difficult as the EMD lender. It can be difficult sometimes to, like, somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I need $5,000 and I'm offering $5,000 return. It's like, well, that sounds like amazing. But then, like, you start getting into it, you're all excited about this deal, you go through the paperwork, and you find that one line in the purchase agreement that says non-refundable as of whatever day, or with this contingency. And I'm like, hey, here's an amendment that I need you to get signed by the seller. It's an amendment that makes it like permanently refundable through close of escrow. That's the only way I can do this deal now. And then, like, obviously the seller doesn't want to do that, and obviously the agent doesn't want their seller to do that. And so it turns into a whole thing about, it's like, well, if you don't sign this, I can't fund your earnest money. Like, if your seller doesn't sign this, I can't fund your earnest money. So what are you going to do, right? And a lot of times they just kind of like go silent after that, because it's like, they either find somebody that's willing to take the risk or they don't, right? So
exactly. And and everybody has their tolerance of risk. So it's just like, okay, this is everything that I see. I don't like the way this is written on this contract, and it just gets more complicated. So we don't that's not our main focus. And but a lot of people know us as being like very protective of like our clients, and they like that. but then it's
Yeah.
like it just gets harder.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I notice myself often, like not just on like earnest money deals, but even on like regular private money lending deals where I'm as like as a connector, capital raiser, whatever, I'm often playing the transaction coordination role. Um and it's all about protecting the client, right? It's all about protecting the
Yes.
PML. Because ultimately it's like the worst thing that happens is the PML backs out the day of closing and the deal falls through and somebody lost their earnest money, like on like a normal PML deal. That's the worst thing that happens, right? If you do everything right and you have to have your PML back out. The worst thing that happens if the deal goes through and the paperwork is bad and um the lender is not well protected is that the lender loses much more than whatever the earnest money was. And
Hmm.
so that's definitely something like at if you're in the TC role, if you are a TC, if you are in between a borrower and a lender of any kind, just keep in mind like there's a lot higher level of risk for the private money lender if the whether it's earnest money or anything else if the paperwork is not set up correctly. So you definitely need to uh just be cognizant of that. Um,
Hmm.
so speaking of private money lending, Evelyn, we were talking a little bit earlier, and I know one of your partners, Damien, he has this idea that it kind of basically refers back to a sub two transaction where you know seller gets a new note that basically wraps around the original note, so you call it a wraparound mortgage. Um, and it puts them in like quote unquote first position. So how have you guys used that for because I know he loves the idea, Damien does.
Hmm.
He loves the idea of it. So how does that work as far as um like private money lending deals go? You have a lender coming in second position, like real life second position. They're the second lien. There's a first lien, probably a hard money lender, maybe a seller, maybe a sub two lender. Um, so those are like the players. You bring your PML in for second position. What is a logical first position, and how does it may or may not protect them? But let's just kind of walk through
But
how it's similar to a sub two
hmm,
transaction and just kind of see what we can come up with.
sure. So most private money lenders, well, I hope most at least put themselves as second, because
Mhm.
I've heard like people even not even doing that. So
Yeah.
at least
I've
the
heard of
first,
people
yeah.
doing thirds. I'm just like,
Oh, third or fourth.
ah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But okay, so most private money lenders they just go and just file a second lien on the property,
Yep.
right? So what we prefer is to do a wrap with the first position and then the second position, and then you do a wrap and then you be the first person. Logical on
Okay.
the wrap. So
Mhm.
what does this really mean? And it just gives you more control. So on this wrap, you're gonna tell the lender, the buyer, say, hey, you're gonna pay me everything, and I pay the underlying mortgage to make sure that they're getting paid. Because a
Mhm.
lot of just never know. This stuff happen in real estate. It's crazy. Um, they will go and not pay the first lien, and they will keep on paying you because you're the smaller loan.
Yep.
So that's what happens, and that's
I
where a lot of people get default.
I
So
have a
now you
lender. I have a
not.
lender in a situation like that right now. And the promissory note didn't actually include that as a default clause. That if you default with the first lien, you're also in default with the second. And so,
Mhm.
it got fixed. Like it, it got resolved, kind of. But it was a very risky situation because it's like, well, if the first position forecloses because you stopped making payments, it doesn't matter if you made payments to the second. Like my
Yeah.
second is
Yep.
still wiped out, right?
It does.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. It's crazy to me because I feel like as grown-ups, you just you take loans, you pay loans, as a
Yeah.
grown-up. But not everybody
A
has
responsible
that
grown
built
up.
in.
No. Well, and not everybody does, but then it's the things happen in real estate. You have
Mhm.
no idea like what's gonna happen, especially when you're doing the flip. I did a flip, and one thing came the next and the next and the next that you just don't foresee it
Right.
coming and happening. And life happens too, about something that happens when you just doing a flip, and God forbid something happens and you can't work for the next 2 months, and you just fall behind. You say, yeah, I'm gonna play catch up, I'm gonna catch up, and it just happens. Life happens.
Hmm.
So
For sure.
I just like, they are definitely a rotten apple in every batch, but you know, just got to throw that rotten apple out there and just continue going.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't,
So,
yeah. So they go, and so that's how like basically they get more protection. They just have more control, with the logical first position.
got it. So, okay. So, and is the is the borrower making payments directly to the second lender, like the second lien, and then the second lien is making the payments to the first, or are you setting up loan servicing to do that?
Mhm. Learn servicing to me is like when you're making a lot of deals. You could start. Also learn servicing for private lenders. They certain servicing you should do your due diligence and speak with a couple of them. They will start the foreclosure process for you.
Hmm.
So just some of them won't. And
Okay.
so that's like one of the things about servicing companies, that if you have one on your side that will do all the due diligence for you when that time does come that you need to foreclose, they on your side, but not all. So that's regarding the
Okay.
servicing. Now servicing, um, it's just, it really depends. Like if you're just doing one transaction, I don't feel like it's really that much needed. But you do need to do the due diligence when that time comes, and maybe even have an attorney that does the foreclosure process. And each state is different. Know the laws, because I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and my partner's in New Jersey, so we know the laws here in New Jersey, and the
Hmm.
foreclosure process here is like forever. You be going down that rabbit hole for more than a year, and people
Yeah.
know how to play the game in New Jersey. You could be in foreclosure for 5+ years.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
You
yeah.
just never get your
So
house back.
no, yeah, you would never get your house back. So just know the laws in that state. Some
Hmm.
states are like 60 days. You could get foreclosed and get your property back. In some other states, you can't.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, I want to kind of shift gears. I really like the idea of that logical
Mhm.
first. I think it probably needs a little bit more like development to put into practice as like a widespread thing. But I like I mean, anything that potentially increases the position, like improves the position of your second position lender. Like I love talking about all kinds of that stuff.
Yeah. And
Um,
then mhm.
Go ahead.
No, and there's other stuff that private money lender, if you want to go a little bit, like how to protect themselves, they could either ask for another property to cross collateral, put a lien
Hmm.
on that property, personal guarantee, and also assignments of rents. If that's a rental property they flipping, the rents could just go to them, or not even flipping, just buying. The rents will automatically go to them. So there's a couple of little things that you could put in place as well.
Okay. Cool.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, and those are all great points as well, like taking cross collateral, assignment of rents documents and stuff like that. That's all great. I want to talk a little bit about like kind of your experience. I mean, you've been doing real estate for over 4 years, right?
Mhm.
How did you get started in real estate? What's your background? And then why did you settle on, not settle, but like why did you decide to be a TC? Like why transaction
My
coordinator?
journey.
Yeah.
Sure. Uh, how did I start it in real estate? Well, one thing, my father was a contractor, so you grew up of him developing like multiple apartment buildings here
Mhm.
in New York. So I've been fascinated with that, and it's been in my blood. And my sister's an electrician, so the construction part of the business is something that I really like grew up in it and just like had this like this fire in me that I want to get into that. However, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I went into building maintenance. So I'm certified building property manager. So I was a property manager for close to 20 years for a storage company, one of the largest storage company in here in New York. So I managed a lot of the storage company, but it was not fulfilling. And the reason why I decided to go to real estate investing, just one day I decided to, I mean, well, not one day, we went on vacation, and that one day in that vacation, I decided to go bungee jumping. And that just gave me like a fire. I was like, oh my God, if I could do this, and it was just exhilarating, I could do anything, I could jump, and I could just fulfill my dream. So I wanted it to flip homes, but I didn't know where to go. So I saw an ad on Facebook. I don't know, like Google and Facebook, they just read your mind. When you start thinking about something, it just pops up. So, you know, I was like, okay, so I could do this. So I joined, I jumped right into it, like the way I bungee jump. I jumped right into it. I was like, this is what I want to do. I joined this mentorship, and it took me 2 years to find my first flip. I hustle and hustle and hustle. In the beginning, I was just like, I spent so, like, I did a lot of door knocking, got a couple of houses under contract. I was more, my main focus was pre-foreclosure, because I really wanted to help homeowners and see how can this whole thing work out with helping. Then COVID hit. COVID hit, and like all that pre-foreclosure, they all went on vacation, and all my properties that I had on the contract just went down the, you know, down that dark hole. They never came back. And as much as I tried to like relive them, it just didn't work. So I was there. It's like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And thought out, I hit rock bottom, and then all of a sudden I had this opportunity to do my first flip during COVID. I did my first flip. That went fantastic. I made a great profit out of it. And during that time of my flip, I met Damien. I didn't want to join another mentorship program, but he came out of the blue like, we in. I was like, what do you mean we in? Right? What are you talking about? I was like, I don't want to be in another mentorship program because I wasn't happy with what I joined. And I was like, I don't want to jump into anything else. I just want to just like, I just want to do this on my own. I networked with so many people here in New York and New Jersey. But we joined, and 6 months later, he was like, you should be a TC. So you're very detailed that, well, not you should, he said, we should be a TC. But it came out to be like, I became the TC.
Right.
Because Damien does not do not one file. He doesn't do any other work. So I just read, just like everything else, I jumped right into it, and this here I am. I think we are close to almost 200 transactions. My team is growing, keeps on growing. And the great thing about it is like now we're getting so many deals that we can't even manage it. And I'm talking about deals of me purchasing it. People come to us because they know that we could close it, and we have the connections, and it's just like, okay, well, this is a little bit overwhelming. And we're just growing our portfolio now. We're doing TC work, so it's been cool.
How many properties do you own?
It's been a crazy ride. We have 10 right now, and then
10 single family.
And that can make yes, one single family and like one multiple. And it may not seem like a lot, but I guess this is why we are TC, because we are very cautious. Is that you have to scale and the capability of what you can do. A lot of people think it's like, okay, I'm just gonna buy a whole bunch of properties, but then the entry, you have to recover your entry, and you won't recover your entry until like maybe 2 years down the line. The cash, yes, you buy a property that's cash flowing maybe $300-500, but $300-500 has to go into to recover your entry costs of
Hmm.
purchasing this property. So if you don't like factor all of that in, you could lose big. So
Yeah.
I don't know, just like be cautious, and everybody has, of course, their level of investing. Um, my level is just one at a time. Like,
Yeah.
let's do one every 6 months, not just go crazy. Like, but I want to buy 10 properties this month. I cannot do that. So it's just
Yeah.
not. I'm not
That's
there.
that's a lot. That I would get overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah, but I've
You
seen
know.
it, and then I've seen people buy like 3, 5 properties, and then come back to me and just like, we can't manage. I'm going bankrupt, and just I'm losing everything. Blah, blah, blah. Can you help me? I'm like, oh man, yeah. And we try, we do.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's your 5-year goal? Portfolio size, number of transactions. What are you guys looking at?
So our 5-year goal is we still in the process. Like I was like, oh my God, I didn't think it was going to be this much of a process of opening our first brokerage,
Hmm.
with in Massachusetts. We open our full brokerage, and then hopefully we will have a brokerage in every state that we have a broker license in. We just really want to focus on helping investors. The new law of that you have to be licensed agents to wholesale in Pennsylvania is coming in next year.
Hmm.
So we just really want to help our fellow investors, and it's going to
Gotcha.
be catered just to investors.
Hmm.
Yeah, if there's an agent, we can't. It's
Like you
there.
can do retail transactions, but that's
We
not what you're there
can,
for.
but we just not. That's not going to be our main focus. And plus, it's just like, retail, and especially new agents, they just want to have a lot of training, and that's not going to be our main focus. We're not going to be
Hmm.
training you how to, get deals and stuff like that. I just that
Right.
that's not going to
Okay.
be our main focus. So that's our 5-year goal, is to have a brokerage in each state, which is, well, I don't know about the sixth one. The sixth one is New Mexico. Damien did drew me like, why are you getting your broker license in New Mexico? We're in the East Coast
Hmm.
here, buddy. Like, it was just like really out of the blue. But that's Damien. That's how he works. He has a vision. He has a plan. So, but that's our goal. Portfolio wise, I just really just this is my buy box. It's like I buy only properties that is a tenant in place, and
Hmm.
the tenant can cover the mortgage, but it has equity. I don't want to misplace anybody out of their home. If they're
Hmm.
happy there and they could pay all the bills, that's what I'm looking for. Um, and then just like maybe in 10 years, retire, sell all my properties that I have, the equity. That's what I want.
Hmm.
I don't want to fix and flip any homes anymore, because I did my first one and I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. Maybe small little touch up paints and stuff like that. If I need to buy a new appliance and plug that in there, something like that, that's fine. But I really would prefer a tenant in place that they're happy there and they don't want to move.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I bought a
Yeah.
house the other day. Uh, that has a tenant in there. He's on housing assistance, but he's lived there for 9 years.
Hmm.
Um, and to me, I'm like, well, if he hasn't made anybody mad for 9 years. He hasn't made,
Exactly.
like he hasn't there hasn't been a reason to kick him out for a whole 9 years. I'm gonna keep him for 9 more, right? Because one, it's like we are in the business of like providing housing, but two, it's like that just makes it easier if I know for sure, like, hey, this tenant cannot possibly be a terrible like there's no way that somebody's just like left him in this house for 9 years in Georgia, where not hard to get people out of your house in Georgia, if they're not performing on like,
Yeah,
contractual obligations. Like it's pretty easy, right?
very easy. Very
And so the fact
easy.
that he's been there for 9 years, he's on housing assistance, and so the assistance payment goes straight to, the owner's bank account. I'm like, look, this is a, Section 8 tenant, like, and he's been there for 9 years, he can stay there for 10 more. I don't care. Like, it's great. And we are in the business of like providing houses, like even if you're
Yes.
flipping, you're fixing a house for somebody to call their home. If you're doing the Burr method, you're fixing a house for somebody to call their home, and then you're going to let people live there. Like that is the business we're in. And so if um when there's the opportunity to get into a house that is profitable and it's very much somebody's home, you know what I mean? Like I prefer to take those opportunities when I can.
Absolutely, I'm in the same page. But everybody has their goals, and that's
Hmm.
not my goal. My goal is not to go and buy a property, fix it up, and then increase the rents, and then you got to leave because you're not paying the standard rate
Right.
of rents in that area.
Yeah.
That just does not sit well with me, and but it's okay. Like this
Hmm.
is a business too as well. If you have that, if you want to have that model,
Hmm.
I hey,
Yeah, and I mean
everybody has
it's
their
also
thing.
like it's also like you have to make money because if there it's
Mhm.
investment, right? And if you don't make money, then you don't invest, and if you don't invest, then the houses fall apart and nobody fixes. Like like
Yes, yes,
absolutely
yes.
everybody, you got to make your
Mhm.
money. For me it's just like if there's the opportunity to buy a house with a tenant in it, um I prefer
And
to
they want
do
to flip.
like a unless the house just needs like a ton of work and it's just gonna be more of a headache than anything with the tenant in there. I prefer to just do like a like gradual increase, like
Yeah.
fi- we'll add $50 when we sign this new lease. We'll add $50 next year. It $50 is what, like 2 hours of driving for
Mhm.
Uber, 3 hours. It's like it's it might be unpleasant, but it's much better than, okay, market rate is $1,500. You're paying $1,000. Guess what happens next month? You're paying 15.
Yes,
Like that.
50.
To me, that's, I
That's
mean,
yeah.
it's missing the point. In my opinion.
In my opinion too as well. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm the
So,
same.
your dad did some development. He was a contractor, that did like like apartment building, development.
Hmm.
How did you decide that you wanted to do like? Did he do like a lot of single family stuff too? Why didn't you go into like like big multifamily?
Um, what he, one thing my dad did pass away um 24
Sorry.
years ago.
Mm,
I wish he was still around, and I wish he would just seen, especially there with my first flip, just like fixing it. Um, there's not that many opportunities here in New York City for single family. Um, and to go into the multiple family here is just like it's just more. It's and then to get, I mean, like it would our flip was is a two family, and to get the private money lending to get that monster done was
mm-hmm,
super difficult, because it's just like everybody's just afraid to invest here in New York, so
right.
you have to have New York money to it in order to flip, and that's just the reality. I don't have New York money. So as much as I network to try to find it out there, it's just like it was very difficult. So that's why I didn't go into the multifamily. I would still love, you never know what could happen in 2 months later from this conversation. Something could happen. It's like I would not close that door at all. But that's the reason why it's tough to do it here.
Yeah,
Yeah, in New York where I'm at, to go into the multifamily.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's definitely like a completely different price point.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, right? Like this house that I bought in, it's in Augusta, Georgia. It was $88,000 with the wholesaler fee added on, right? So like the wholesaler had it under contract for, I think, like it ended up being like 60 something on the HUD. Which I'm a little burned out, but it's okay. I feel like if the wholesaler is like doing a good job, like you're always gonna feel a little bit burned, but also you're also like plenty of profit built in, so it's fine. But I mean, this is less than $100,000 for the whole house. Um, with a tenant in place that, the Section 8 rates for, it's a 3-bed house, so Section 8 in Augusta is $1,200 right now. The tenant has been paying $700, which, like I said, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna work with the housing assistance people. I'm not gonna like jack your rate up if they aren't gonna like also do their part and everything. I don't want you to have to leave. But I mean, like, we're talking about just like entry points and price points. The $100,000 means like a $20,000 down payment maybe on like a regular DSCR loan or something like that, right? $100,000 probably doesn't even cover a down payment in like New York City, So I mean, the price points are just definitely something to keep in mind also. That's why I see a lot of people, there's a lot of like new gurus that are saying, oh, just go on Investor Lift, go like type in turnkey and put a cap at like $50,000, and then you're gonna get a bunch of houses in Jackson, Mississippi, and you're gonna get a bunch of houses in Cleveland, Ohio, and then you're just gonna buy those. And I'm like that is a way, because I mean, rent isn't really less in those places necessarily, but the price points are like, I mean, $100,000 is like a super cheap house, but I mean, there's definitely houses that I get sent on Investor Lift or from like wholesalers in like Cleveland, $50,000 for this duplex. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
So do you guys mostly do like out of state investing then, or do you stay local?
Out of state. Yep.
Okay. So
we in the Philly market, and we also in the northeast of Pennsylvania. I have a couple of properties in Exeter and Stratton. We definitely want to get into I don't know about Damien. I want to get more into the Pocono areas. I just like that area, and I want to be in the woods. I want to get out of New York City, madness.
Yeah. So are all of your properties long-term rentals?
Long term, yeah.
Okay.
All long term. That like when I thought about this like, okay, this is where I really want to go into. It was my property in Exeter. It's like he's been in there 10 years, and when I bought the property, they were so nervous to meet me because they were just like so afraid of them getting booted out of their home that they've been in 10 years. And I just like, when I saw their face and how like pale and like they were shaking, I was like, okay, Evelyn, you cannot do this. Like, you can't go down the route of buying properties to try to like, increase the rent to the standard rates of whatever $2,000 and they pay $1,000. It's just not. I just couldn't do it. So I was like, this is where I need to go into, like, find tenants that's been there for 10 years. You happy here? Okay, great. If you're happy, I'm happy. Just please pay your rent so I could just pay all the bills here and put maybe a little bit aside for just in case of emergency. And that's it. That's all I want. Right. Don't bother me. I won't bother you. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm not going to be driving 2 hours to come see what's like not loud noise that you're playing your music, whatever. I don't. I just like take care of your property, and of course they're going to take care of it. They've been there for 10 years. They want to stay there. That's their home. That's their house. Right. So that's where that whole thing came about. It's like, okay, I want to buy more properties like this where people are just like want to take care of the home because that's their home.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And that's
you got to see their faces. It brings just like, I feel so bad.
It's like the whole point, the whole point is that you're providing homes for people. And I think it's really cool because, I mean, everybody talks about like how much money they make or how much money they didn't make or here's how the deal went, but nobody really talks about like the hey, I buy a tenant occupied property and I didn't jack the rent up to like market rates immediately because somebody's been living there for 10 years and they've been great. So why would I do that? It's not really often that people talk about that. So I think it's really cool to that we're able to like kind of touch on like the human aspect of it is like, we don't live in caves because of real estate investors, basically. Like, and it's important to keep in mind, it's like we are providing that, and that's awesome. And that's really cool. That's like a really cool thing that we're doing, like for society, basically, as real estate investors. And it's cool to touch on the human aspect. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
what
they
so we were talking a little bit about kind of like challenges with with creative finance, challenges with real estate in general. What is your biggest challenge that you guys have been facing in your TC business, in your portfolio? What are some challenges, and what are the ways that
so
you're tackling them?
okay. So our biggest challenge right now is time.
Hmm.
Time is our biggest challenge. When we get a deal to close, we have to just spend so much time just focusing on just getting this deal closed. So we don't have time to get on every call, get on every Zoom, get help everybody out and just guide. There's a lot of new investors always coming in, and they just want to like learn from us because they know that we are transaction coordinators, so we are like the last people and in the game, so that I'm talking about like the deal. So we just know more than just even maybe like an investor that just have maybe 5, 10 properties,
Hmm.
because we have to know more. We have to know the legal parts. We have to know how to write and read in contracts and legal documents and all that stuff. So the time of us guiding people, it's getting more and more and more difficult, and it becomes like, okay, a lot of people just want to pick our brains, and they just want to couple how this, how that, how that, and it just goes over and over, and it's like, and they just don't understand that they're taking away time from us closing the deals. It's like when you become a client, you're going to understand, like we
Hmm.
don't. So but again, and then it comes to a point, it's like we do want to help. We want to be there for you. So that has been our biggest challenge of like, how can we save time and not see like, well, I don't have time for you. I can help you right now. Like, how
Right.
can we like, that's our biggest challenge. Like, how can we put it together? How can we just say, hey, because and at the beginning of our journey, people were just calling us and talking, we jumping on Zooms, now it's like, no, you have to book a time to speak to us.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of people get turned off by that. Oh my god, but it just became a reality, and it's just
Yeah.
like, and how can we just like make that to be like, hey, it's not, I don't know, I guess the time and the message out there to
Yeah.
us well.
Somebody told me one time, and it's like one of those like truism type things, but somebody told me one time the most important people are the hardest to get in touch with, um, because they're so busy. And I'm finding that to be like the
I
case
don't want
for
to feel like I'm the most important people person.
you're the most important people, Evelyn. That's no, but it's true though. It's like the more value you're providing, the more people want you to provide value to them, and then the more time gets you know placed,
Mhm,
right? Like that my time is placed with this task, with this task, with this task, with this task. um and at a certain point, it's if it's not important, it wouldn't be on the calendar, right? And if it is important, it will be on the calendar because you need to do it. And so that's something that I, people feel like calendar appointments or whatever are a little bit like cold, I guess, quote
well,
unquote.
it's not
um
personal.
yeah,
No.
impersonal. But for me, it's just like I would rather have a calendar appointment. We sit down and we get on a call, and I dedicated that 30 minutes to
Yes.
you, versus like, okay, you caught me, like I'm messaging back and forth on Facebook, but I'm also like in a call, and I'm also doing head down work, and I'm also like eating it. Like I'd rather just like have the 20 to 30 minutes set out and say, hey, what is your problem? Okay, let's brainstorm. Okay, here's the fix to your problem in 30 minutes, and there was nothing else going on, no distractions. Because I mean that's like another thing that just kind of like sucks, is when you're hoping to get in touch with somebody and they're super distracted and they're not able to like help you out with whatever they're doing. um so I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely think that calendars are, I'm not going to say they're underused. I'm going to say they're probably a little bit underappreciated. Um, maybe because of the way it's just like, at some point it's like, hey, I don't have time to talk to you right now, but here's my calendar. Like, that's a little cold, maybe there's a nice way to say
Yeah,
that, but it's
and then
just the truth. It's just true.
it's such a truth, but you just made a great point. Like, wait, you are on Facebook, but you are on the email. You are like you're doing the multiple things, and if a lot of people don't even understand that, it's like when I'm on Facebook, it's because I'm doing a whole bunch of things here, and I don't have like really time to just jump on a phone call with you. And then when
Mhm.
they were like, but you could be on Facebook and messaging me, and now you want me to book a call, and they don't even understand what the heck is happening in the background. Like you don't
Right.
even know where I'm at. You don't know if I'm in a doctor's office and I'm Facebooking you. Like you don't. It's just like you don't understand. It's just why. It's like why you get so offended, and it has happened so many times. It's like why are you so offended if I'm giving you a dedicated time for me to just to speak with you and give my 100% for that 15-30 minutes.
Right.
Uh, but that's the like setting time and getting that message across that don't get offended when someone throws you their calendaring link, book a time.
Hmm.
Don't get offended.
Yeah.
Actually, you should be like, wow, they're gonna set a time for me. Like, wow, you should be happy.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Ellen, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I
Thank you
want to
for
make sure
having
that
me.
I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you for you or your team, for TC transactions. Maybe if they're doing deals in up in Philadelphia or like Northeast Pennsylvania, anything that they've got going on out there, any of the states where you guys have a brokerage open. So how do people what's your company name? How do people get in touch with you? I'll make sure to post whatever socials you want in the YouTube description after this also.
Thank you. So our website and the company name is Anchor Light TC. Anchor like
Mhm.
the anchor on the boat. Light like I'm gonna shine the light on you. TC. AnchorLightTC.com. You could submit your deals there. You could also get on our list. If you have a deal, submit it. If you're looking for a buyer, submit it. Just get on our list.
Mhm.
Our telephone number, and this is the team phone number, you could text us at 516-788-8881.
Okay.
I would say
Say that whole thing again.
788-8881. All you have to remember is the 7 and the 1 at the end. 788
Gotcha.
8881. 516.
8888. Got it. Cool. Awesome. Well, Evelyn, thank you for your time this morning. I really do appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing your journey and some of the knowledge that you've picked up from doing over, I mean, 100 transactions it's a lot of deals. That is a lot of stuff to have influenced and been influenced by. So it's always great to connect with somebody that has that level of experience and is willing to share it with people. So I
Uh,
appreciate your time so much, and you have a great rest of your Saturday, and I'm sure we'll reconnect again soon. I might start coming to you for my PML transactions to just see how that logical first position works.
awesome. Come.
Cool.
And thank you for having me. And thank you for having it on a Saturday morning where I could just start my weekend.
Awesome.
This is a great spot. I like
Yeah,
it. But
I
thank you
like
so much.
Saturday morning. Like it's a little early on Saturday morning. It's like 7:30 or
No, no,
whatever when
I
we
think it's
start, but
perfect.
it's
It's
great.
perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks again,
Great.
and
Thank you.
if you guys are in the audience, don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.
Yes. Take care. Bye.